Who's tired of elementary school English? Who's ready for big boy and big girl like junior high and high school English? You too? Oh, that's so exciting. I'm glad. I'm happy for that. Well, we have some big boy and big girl English that we're going to be doing today. Actually, really, it's still elementary school English. However, it's usually not even that mastered by adults, and which would include college graduates. So it's going to be helpful for us to focus on some troublesome verbs today. Okay, verbs that are easily confused one with the other. And so we're going to look at several sets of these troublesome verbs, and we're going to start with lie and lay. Okay, lie and lay. To lie means to recline, whereas lay means to place, to put, or to set, S-E-T, something. By the way, that's another one that we're going to discuss, the difference between sit, S-I-T, and set, S-E-T. Very similar with these two. To lie means to recline, whereas to lay means to place, as in an object somewhere. Now, before we get into these, I want to give you a key up here for all of our A, B, C, Ds, and I just really didn't have space to write it. And so for all of these, they're going to be the same. A key up here as far as a verb tense. And the first one, A, is going to be present. The second one, B. So for all of these, so all these A's, all these B's are going to be present participles. All of the C's will be past tense. And then all of the D's will be past participles. Okay, we all right with that? And basically a past participle is just the past tense, but with a past tense helping verb, okay? And so that's what we're going to do with each one of these. Now, the difference between lie and lay. Lie means to recline, lay means to place. All right, we're going to use Caden for our example, number 1. For lie, Caden does not lay, not in the present tense anyway. Present tense, Caden lies, and we don't mean that he's telling naughty fibs either. We mean that he's tired. Aww. And he lies down for afternoon naps. Little bitty baby Caden. He's so sweet, isn't he? 9th grade Caden, little bitty itsy baby. And he lies down for his afternoon beauty sweeps. That's sweet. Okay, but the present tense is lies. All right? And we typically underline verbs with 2 lines, and so we'll do that with the black ink. Caden lies down. For our present participle, we change, okay, and a participle, ing, if it's present, but we add a helping verb to that. Okay, is lying. And so we change the I to a Y. We discussed that some yesterday. Add ing, and we have a helping verb, a present helping verb, is, with that one. Yesterday, Caden lay. Okay, so it is possible for Caden to lay, but he has to be, in the past tense before he can do so. Yesterday, Caden lay down for a nap. It's not laid down for a nap because that means to place, whereas lie in all of its forms means to recline. And commonly you'll see Caden laid down, or here, Caden laid down. That's incorrect. No, Caden lay down is the past tense. Now this one is one that almost is never written and spoken correctly. D, the past participle for lie, Caden has lain. That sounds weird, doesn't it? But that's what it is. Accurately, it's not has laid, but it's that he has, just a little bit farther, didn't I? It's that he has lain, dirty finger erase, has lain there for hours. He needs lots of sleep to get his beauty rest. He is a precious boy. All right, Caden has lain there for hours. That's the past participle. I know these are both ones, and the reason is under 1, we're considering lie and lay together. Okay, I intentionally did that. Same thing over here, number 2. with rise and raise. All right, so lay, present tense lay, that means to place, as stated before, or to put something somewhere. Okay, how about this one, 1A? Every day I lay my pen on my desk. I do not lie my pen on the desk. The pen itself doesn't recline, okay? I'm not reclining my pen, is the way that would read, but I do place, or I do set, S-E-T, my pen on my desk. That's a true statement. When I'm at school, I typically do that. At home, my workspace, I do that as well. 1B, let's go ahead and double underline lay for present tense of to place something. B, the present participle, I am laying. Not I am lying my pen, but I am laying my pen, and you'll see I have either an arrow going up or not parentheses, but quotation marks, so I don't have to write too much of the same thing. I am laying my pen on my desk. Present participle. Past tense. Okay, it's not I lay my pen, as in the past. Like yesterday I lay my pen on my desk. No, yesterday, and I don't have yesterday there, but you understand what I'm saying. Yesterday I laid, L-A-I-D, laid my pen on my desk. Now you'll notice the past participle, the spelling does not change for lay. It stays the same. Unlike lie, where it goes from lay to lane, well, laid in the past tense stays laid in the past participle. It's just that you add have or has, whichever one of those is more appropriate depending on the singularity or the plurality of your subject. So I have laid my pen on my desk. Those are the forms. Make sure you get these in your notes because you're going to have plenty of questions, I'm sure, involving all these words in this lesson on your test. And so I want to make sure you're adequately prepared for that. Okie doke, schmoke. Numero dos. Rise. The difference between rise and raise. To rise means the subject itself goes up. But for raise, the subject causes some object after the verb to go up. And by the way, it's the same thing right back here. If you'll notice, for lie, no matter in what tense it is found, it's an intransitive verb, meaning there is no direct object that ever comes after the word lie. Now for lay, it's a transitive verb, meaning there's always a direct object that comes after it. And every one of these, regardless of tense, I lay what? That's the question that a direct object answers, either what or who. Every day I lay what? My pen, okay, on my desk. And so pen, 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 and pen are all direct objects for lay. And number two, for rise, similar to lie, it is an intransitive verb. It is never going to have a direct object. And you'll notice that we have 4 pledges that comes after the verb every time. Well, that's a prepositional phrase, and a direct object cannot be in a prepositional phrase, kind of like a subject of a sentence. Okay, so for the present tense of rise, which means the subject itself goes up, our students rise 4 pledges. They're very respectful kids, and they do that. Good job, guys. Who rises? Goes up. The subject. The subject is doing the action, okay? Not who in the sense after the verb, a direct object, but who as in the subject of the sentence. Our students rise. They themselves go up 4 pledges. Now the present participle would be our students are rising. Like right now, they're doing that. For the past tense, it would be our students, and I guess we can say that now because we're not in our school building itself. And so our students in the past, they rose. They themselves went up 4 pledges. And if you wanted to use past participle, you would just toss in have, has, or had in this case, okay? So it would be our students in the past had risen. That's a past participle. They themselves went up for pledges. Raise, as opposed to rise, and I've already mentioned this, but just to reiterate, raise is to make something go up. In other words, you're going to have the subject, the verb, okay? The subject is going to make something as a direct object after the verb go up. And in this case, we're going to use sweet Miss Kelsey. Kelsey raises, she makes something go up. That's present tense, by the way. What does she make go up? What? Direct object answers the question. Her hand. Kelsey makes her hand to go up. Now, if I wanted to use it as a present participle, I would do Kelsey is raising her hand. She is right now making her hand go up in the air. If I were talking about in the past, like when we were in the classroom, Kelsey raised. Or she made, instead of make, she made her hand go up. And then lastly, the past participle, Kelsey has raised. Kelsey has raised sometime in the past her hand. And so those are all the forms of present, present participle, past, past participle for the differences between lie, lay, rise, and raise. Don't get them confused. It's easy to do. Trust me, I understand. It's easy to do. Okay, I'm going to erase these and I'm going to put just a few more up on the board and that'll be that. So it only seemed like a half second. If only you knew how much time has passed in writing all this nonsense on the board. You guys complained, oh, to write all this. It takes a lot longer to write it on a board, on a wall, and marker. Okay, let's get going here. So number 3 and number 3. Sit and set. What are the differences between the two? Very similar to lie and lay. To sit means to be in a seated position. The subject, itself, himself, herself, themselves are in a seated position. Okay? Whereas to set, S-E-T, means to place or to put something. And actually is just a synonym with, you could say to lay, L-A-Y, something. Okay, so sit is to be in a seated position. So let's go through the present, present participle, A and B, C, past, and D, past participle verb tenses. So 3A, let's pick on Micaiah. Micaiah likes animals. So Micaiah sits with her cat. That means she is in a seated position, Micaiah herself with her cat. And this is another one of those sit that is an intransitive verb, which means there is no direct object that comes after it. Now it's true there is a noun that comes after it, cat, but cat is in a prepositional phrase, and a direct object can never be inside of a prepositional phrase, just like a subject. So Micaiah sits with her cat. Okay, if I want to do a present participle, I would say Micaiah is sitting. So just add ing, and because it ends in the consonant, remember the rule, we'd add a t to it before ing. Past tense is Micaiah sat, S-A-T, with her cat. And past participle, we simply add an H-A verb to help it out. So Micaiah has, in the past, sat, S-A-T. So sat does not change from past to past participle. The only thing that changes is your H-A helping verb. So 3, the second part of it, set, S-E-T, means to place, to put, or to lay something. Well, when I say we here, we're talking about guys. What do girls do? They sit with their pretty cats and they pet those kitty cats. What do guys do? We guys, we males, we set traps for cats. That's who we are. That's what we do. I'm not going to say what we do with them once we catch them, but we set traps for them. Okay, which means we place what? A direct object. Traps for every one of these, regardless of verb tense. We set traps for cats, we guys. If I want to do present participle, we are setting, not we are sitting. That would be us in a seated position. No, we are setting or we are placing what? Traps. For what creatures? Cats, of course. So we are setting traps for cats. 3C, yesterday now notice this is past tense here. Yesterday, it's not we sat traps, it remains, guys, S-E-T. We still set. Even though it's a past tense verb, the spelling is the same as the present tense. That's kind of unique. D, we have set. I'll cut into my inserted that there, but that's okay. We have set. Notice it doesn't change yet again. And so basically set and its spellings are all exactly the same. The only difference being add a consonant ing, add a helping verb down here, add a helping verb. We have set so many traps for cats that I have lost count. Guys, we're making progress if we've set that many traps for those dangerous feline creatures. Good job, guys. Male gender, that is. Okay, number 4, in both fours. What's the difference between may and can? Well, we know this because you get grilled by teachers on this, again, from elementary school. And I've kind of given you a hard time with it this year. You guys have that figured out. May means to be allowed to do something, or you have permission. Or maybe if it's the negative, you do not have permission. Can is to be able. Are you physically capable? Or is something physically capable of doing such a thing? A sentence from May. You may, if we're at the zoo on a field trip, you may, I could tell you, you may snuggle up to that elephant. I wouldn't recommend that, but you may. That means I will allow you to do such a thing. Okay, I'm not just going to underline that because snuggle would also be part of the verb. I'm just going to circle here. You may, because what's meant by that is I am allowing you to snuggle up against to an elephant. Now, can, to be able, I wouldn't recommend you're doing so, and here's why. I need to change this. No, that's not very good. I was close. Let me see. Red. Sorry. Forgive my OCD. Those of you who as well cannot function in society understand. Okay. I'm talking about a plurality of elephants here, and the intestines belong to plurality of elephants. Okay, so you may snuggle up to that single elephant. However, I would not recommend it because elephants' intestines can be quite volatile, meaning it could poo in your face. And if not, it'll probably kick your brains or your spleen out. So I would not recommend you're doing so. But the word here, and can be, would be the verb, right? But I'm just going to circle. And the reason I would use elephants' intestines can, that means they are able to produce volatility. So I would not recommend it. Now, don't use may because I'm not saying I'm allowing elephants' intestines to, I have no control over it. So it's not about what I allow or what I don't. It's just what they have the ability to do. All right, one more. Shall and will. What's the difference between the two? I want to be very clear about this because I'm about to tell you there's a difference between them, but in so doing I want to tell you that there really is no difference between them. You hear that clearly? There is really no difference today really of which to speak between shall and will, and really it's just more that shall is almost outdated and will has almost completely replaced it. Will can be used anywhere and everywhere grammatically correctly. However, if you like technicalities and you want to talk about the old originality of these two terms, there really was a difference between them. And technically, maybe even you could still argue there is, though it's not really, it doesn't really come across in modern English, okay? But technically, and especially in a few years back, there is a difference between the two. Shall is intended to be used in the future tense with first person. And first person is in pronouns like I, we, in the subjective case, objective, me, okay, or us. I, we, me, us. If you're talking about those kinds of terms, you yourself or you and including others, first person, and it's in future tense, technically, once upon a time, it was just shall that was correct to use. And that's probably why you read so many shalls in certain older Bible translations. Okay, for instance, I shall finish all incomplete homework tonight. I think that is a great idea. I like that you put your mind to doing that. You should do such a thing. There's plenty of incomplete homework out there. Get it done! So, I shall finish all incomplete homework tonight. Okay, the verb, complete verb being shall finish. But I use shall because I'm talking about the future, not remote, but almost immediate future. If it's tonight, the same day. Future nonetheless, and it's with first person, I. Now, will, that's when you can use it anywhere else, and really you can just use it anywhere, including with future tense and first person. But if you're wanting to argue semantics, which means if you just like to argue, or listen to this though, on your tests, okay, for test purposes, I want you to answer the questions in these two ways. Alright, so if you have future tense first person, you will only get it right on your test if you use shall. But if you're using second person, which is you, your, okay, or third person, which is he, she, it, they, them, him, her, itself, or just as a narrative that would read, you would use will. For instance, you, now that's second person, right? You will finish, not shall, but you will finish all incomplete homework. We have to go empty those traps, aren't we? You will finish all incomplete homework tonight. If it's the last thing you do, you will not sleep until you do. You will not eat until you do. Okay, but I use will in this case because that is second person, even though it's in the future. It's second person and not first person. Okay, guys, that's English for the day. So that's a little more challenging, isn't it? We've had super duper easy peasy stuff and troublesome words and spellings. And even though this is really still largely elementary school stuff, again, I would state that even many, if not most, college graduates aren't going to be able to readily tell you the difference between all these things. So you get these down really well now. Not only will you extremely so impress teachers in the present and professors in the future in college, but you could very well impress some prospective employers and maybe just do better in life because of that. So that's our English lesson for the day, guys. I will see you tomorrow.